So I'm going to turn it over now to our next speaker, our good friend Lyle Dadian, Director of Instructional Technology from ClassLink. Perfect follow-on to everything that I just shared, because I talked about single sign-on and what was important about that. So I'm going to invite him next to share really about what's happening with them and give him the screen. So hi Lyle.
How are you? It's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you. Okay, so you're up. So go ahead. I'm going to stop sharing and you share, and we want to hear everything.
Perfect. You bet. Let me share my screen and we will get going. Can you see the black PowerPoint slide?
Yeah, I can see it. You can launch it into full PowerPoint mode if you want.
I'm going to keep it like this. It's easier for me to maneuver, but thank you.
Okay, cool. All right.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. Folks, my name is Lyle Dadian. I'm with ClassLink. I've been with ClassLink for going on 4 years. I've been in educational technology for about 20. And prior to, I was in a different life. I was a high school history teacher. So that's my background and I'm sticking with it. But today we will talk about ease of access, the ability to measure student engagement from a leadership perspective and from a teacher perspective, as well as rostering. How do you get all this data? How do you create these accounts when the new kids come in, when the new teachers come in? And just as important, when they leave, how do you manage that from a back-end perspective, which is, if you're a technology person, the automation is going to be of interest. And if you're a curriculum person, the ease of access and the analytics available to evaluate is going to be of interest. So that's what we'll talk about. If that sounds like a plan, I'll just give you a bit of information about ClassLink itself. We've been in business 23 years. The important takeaway on that is we're an education-only company. Districts all over the country. In the lower right-hand corner, we've got a ton of partners and more every day. And for what it's worth, this is a glorious, glamorous business that we all work in. And because it is, there are awards. And the Cody Awards are kind of like the Academy Awards. I'm sure you've heard of those. And most recently, I believe our Ease of Use Award, we won the Ease of Use Award. So 16 million users, 2,000 plus school systems around the country. We have 2 statewide deployments, one in Iowa, one in Connecticut. Single sign-ons, we have a ton already built. And as I said, vendor partners all over the place. So how do we help students and teachers? We help students and teachers primarily with single sign-on and the access to files remotely. So a student would sign into a web-based portal, and then once they're signed in, they're taken to what you see here on this Chromebook or the tablet or the phone, their Launchpad. And that Launchpad has the applications that that person needs, based on his or her schedule, and it's adaptable down to the individual person. You can customize this and personalize that down to the individual student. How do we help leaders? We help leaders with analytics. So who's using what, how often things are being used. You can look at an individual level, a classroom level, a building level, a district level. And it really helps you pinpoint and focus your professional development based on who is or who isn't using things. It will also help you determine return on investment. We're paying for this many seats. How many seats are actually being used? If they're not, why not? If they're not, who's not? And if it's a core product, math, reading, science, you're going to want to make sure that that is being used. And if it's a supplemental type product, well, maybe you don't need to buy 500 digital seats anymore. You're using 200, so whittle that down to 200 or 225. Take the savings and apply it somewhere else. So we'll talk about that. So this is what ClassLink was a few years ago, and this is what we are today. I just spoke to you on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, in the upper right-hand corner, we have 2 tools, OneSync Server that creates your AD, Azure, or Google accounts, and Roster Server that creates your external accounts to your vendors. So the McGraws, the Pearsons, the Nat Geos. It also gets that data from your SIS to that vendor. So that's a great way to automate your service. If both of those tools are hooked up, we like to say you're digital from day one. A student comes in on day one, within 24 hours, that student has access to all the applications that he or she needs based on, the grade, the subjects that student is taking. So that's great. A parent portal in the lower right-hand corner, we can replicate that same experience that we do for your students, for your staff, for your administrators with your parents. Your parents would be signing into applications that they would need. So maybe it's a SIS, Infinite Campus, or Skyward, and they need to check on their students' grades, or maybe they need to pay a bill. So there's an application that they would need to sign into. And then finally, a public portal. This is really coming into play because of the student data privacy laws coming all over the country to the individual states. And that is, you're required to list the applications being used, who's using them, what they're being used for, and then a privacy policy for each one of those applications. And that's for consumption, for your constituents' consumption. So that's what we'll talk about today. We're going to sign into ClassLink. Before we do, I'll show you the various ways that you can sign in to ClassLink. So for your little ones, if you like, they can QR code in. It's great. You get a whole classroom of kindergarten teachers, kids logged in a minute, and the teachers are crying because the kids are logged in, not because they're not. And then you could assign 2 groups. Maybe you want your students to sign in with Google and your teachers to sign in with AD. You can assign your groups whichever way you want them to sign in. We also provide 2-factor, of course, that is coming more and more into play with data fraud and these security risks that districts are more and more coming into, and we can provide 2-factor as well. So with that being said, let's jump into it. This is our demo login page. I'm going to pull up some districts from around the Midwest and country. And when I do, just note the various ways that the districts brand their page. So this is branded, and then note the various ways that the districts allow their people to sign in. So this is our demo page. We'll come back to that. This is Racine Unified in southeastern Wisconsin. They allow their people a quick card, their school credentials. They set up an AD so that we can include a password reset. Here is Kenosha, just north of Chicago on the Wisconsin border side. More districts in Wisconsin. This is Green Bay. Now we're into Illinois, Rockford, quick card, school credentials. Idea. They're District 230 in suburban Chicago, East Maine. And you get the idea there on the branding. So in terms of logging in, you can do a quick card and log in that way. I'm going to log in with Google. So I'm going to pick my account. I'm going to type in my password. And this is an example of 2-factor. It's great for your young kids. These images are going to shuffle and change out. The only one that won't is the one that I pre-selected. I'm the baseball here, but you can also time this out and fails. So if you fail to log in 5 times, it'll lock you out. So the first thing you note here is notifications. You can push out notifications to your people by group. So maybe to the teachers, hey teachers, 3rd hour fire drill. Kids, no school Friday. Parents, parent-teacher conferences Thursday night. You can push that out in text. You can push it out in video. I'll close that out. And now what you see is what we call the launch pad. This is one place for all the applications I need based on who I am. In this case, I'm logged in as a teacher. So these are the applications deemed as core, the non-negotiable things that I need to be engaged with, most likely on a daily basis to be a successful teacher in that district. And hopefully it reminds you of the phones that we're all carrying around, right? Because that's exactly the look we were going for. And you're going to be able to give your people the ability to move and organize as you see fit. You see folders here, and we'll get to that in a second, but let me demonstrate the single sign-on. So I just signed into my Houghton Mifflin account. It'll sign me into my specific unique account. So I'm signed into Houghton Mifflin. Let me sign into Schoology. So in a matter of a couple seconds here, I'm signed into 2 accounts. If I want to work between both of them, I just toggle the tabs. I'll close those out. So that's the single sign-on, simple enough. The applications themselves, let's take a closer look at those. And what you see here is a ribbon and key, and many of them. And that ribbon and key signifies that that's a password protected site. The district is paying a subscription, a license for that site, and you're signing in securely to that. The other icon you see on there is a lock. And that lock means that the little angels that they are, and they all are angels, If they want to try and accidentally get out of their math homework and they accidentally delete their math application, that's not going to happen. You can lock this, and that connection will not be broken. That will not be able to be broken either by a student or by a teacher. Sometimes teachers make mistakes, but that won't happen in this case. In terms of organization, let's move on to the folders. And here's an example of some folders that you can push out. Library resources. Again, you can customize this to what the district needs, but this is a really popular example. Library resources, traditionally things that districts are paying for, and traditionally things that people are not using because you don't know you have them. And if you do, you can't sign into them. You push them out in this fashion, you take that guesswork out of where do I need to go? What do we have access to? How do I log into it? You open up the folder and you click on it and away you go. And that alleviates, the kids are using products that have been vetted for content. It's appropriate for them to see. And if you're a technology person, that content, that vendor has been vetted from a security standpoint as well. When the teachers are using those applications, it's not going to put you at risk from a security standpoint. Another one is HR links. Maybe you want to push this out to just your employees. And again, you take that guesswork out of where do I need to go? What do I need to sign into? How do I sign into it? You push it out in a folder like this. That's where you need to go. Open up the folder. These are the things you need to sign into if you want. How do you sign in? You one click in. So you can customize this to the district needs, and you can even let your people add folders. I'm right clicking now, and if you wanted to allow them to add a folder, they could. And you can lock this down. You can open it up to the wild, wild west. Most people don't do that, but that is the Launchpad. I'm going to stop for a second and see if there are any questions. Any questions? LeiLani?
Hey, Lyle, it's Doug. I'm watching out for some. I don't have any coming in yet, but I'll let you know.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
That's the Launchpad. Let's move on. So this is the core. If you view this as the core, that's great. What do you do if you want to give the kids the ability to add something or customize? This is where a library comes into place. And the library is a really nice way to limit and control what's being used in the district. And when we talked about the security and data and all those breaches that are going on, this is really critical. A lot of districts are looking for a way to do this. And so what you can do is you click on the plus, that opens up our application library. This is set up to show everything because we're in a demo mode, but you can, if you want to, build your own library. So in this case, it says district approved application library. Maybe you want to name that kindergarten through 5th grade or middle school and high school. And then when you click, pre-populate those with the applications, the supplemental applications that are approved for the high school, that are approved for the middle school, that are approved for the grade school kids to add if they want. What kind of things go into here? Maybe it's a graphing calculator. Maybe it's a website that builds interest in STEM for girls, and you want to make that available to your students. So you make them available that way. So that is the application library, a great way, again, to limit what applications are being used in the district, really to give you a much better control of what's being used. So that's that. On to teacher engagement. I'm a teacher. Remote learning, of course, has come into play this past year and a half with COVID, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere after we get back to a more normal routine. And so we've come up with this. Districts were struggling with a way to measure student engagement. So this is from an elementary school teacher's perspective. I clicked on that backpack, and here are my classes that I teach. Of course, a grade school teacher is teaching across the curriculum. So here are all those wonderful subjects. Let's say I want to check out and see what my math kids are doing. And I click on my math. Here I can send out a message to my entire class. Those are logged. It's just another way for homeschool connection. Here are the applications that I use to teach that math course. And I can one click in there. All right, so discussion boards. I want to get a discussion board going with my class. I can do that here. Again, recorded and logged. Now, this is where it really starts getting interesting when it comes to student engagement. Here are all my kids on the left. On the right are the icons. If I clicked on the icon, it would take me to the analytics for that specific student. We're going to get there from a different road, and we'll go to logins. So logins, let me change the week. I'm going to do it to the previous week, last week, so we get a full week of data in there. It looks a bit more impressive. My kids on the left again, the week of the school year on top. The check mark indicates nothing more, nothing less than that student logged in, right? And this was very valuable when COVID first hit. A lot of districts were using this, believe it or not, to take attendance, for lack of a better way to do it. The deeper we got into COVID, we heard back from our current clients and said, look, that's nice, that's good. We need more information. And so this is what we came up with based on the feedback from our current clients. Same kids, same school week. Instead of a check mark, you're going to get what we call, this is a heat map. The darker the color, the more time that student has spent online. And then when you click into that square, it will show you specifically what that kid did and how much time that student spent online in each respective application. How are districts using this? How are teachers using this? The beauty of this is I'm a teacher. I can assess my entire class, in virtually in 15 seconds. So people are using this to make sure that kids are not falling through the cracks. And if they are, like perhaps Talon is here, Talon logged in only twice. What's going on? Is there an issue? Is he sick? What's going on? I may need to reach out. And so this is how districts and teachers are using this to ensure catch kids before they fall another week behind. And then if they need more information, for instance, on Ariel here and specifically what Ariel did, then they could log into Khan Academy or Skyward and get exactly where they are in terms of progress and homework and scores and things like that. This is a first line defense in terms of catching kids before they fall further behind. So that is the engagement point that we talked about. This is from a classroom perspective. This is from an individual teacher's perspective. So Doug, I'll pause there. Any questions? Any questions here? You guys are an easy crew, easy crowd. All right, so we'll march on. So we talked about remote file access. And remote file access, if a school is still using a school shared network drive, and many districts are, to store their work, it seems like most of the employees are still using a school shared network drive, and the kids have migrated over to a cloud drive. In this case here, we have a school shared network drive, and then we have a Google Drive. The beauty of this is you can work out of both from one spot, anywhere, anytime, on any device. So I'm accessing my school shared network drive, and I'm accessing a file here remotely. I can open it, I can edit it, I can save it, I can drag and drop and push it over to my Google if I wanted to. So this is a really nice tool if you do want to migrate your employees over to the cloud. Hey guys, the school shared is going away next year. Get used to using Google. In the meantime, you can work out of here, you can work out of both from one spot. And then you could drag and drop if you wanted to, like that. The other neat thing on this is because I have multiple drives connected, and this is all configurable, folks. You can connect or disconnect as you see fit. But I'm going to open these storage areas up again. And let's say I'm searching for a document, and because I have multiple areas hooked up, I can't remember where I put it. And so in this case, I'm looking for a syllabus. I don't know where I put it. I type it in. I select where I want to look. I want to look everywhere. And then it will search across all the drives you've got connected and find whatever the appropriate files are that have that key term that you type in. So that's the remote file access. It's a really handy tool to migrate people over to Google, or if your employees want to just keep their work on the school shared network drive, but have the ability to access it anywhere. All right. On to district analytics. So I'm going to switch profiles. And as you can guess, there are different profiles here. Each profile gives you different permission rights. I've switched over to an administrator now from my previous role as a teacher. And here are the applications that I need to be an effective administrator in this district. In this case, I want to take a look at the district-wide analytics. And here they are. This is from 30,000 feet. You can dive all the way down into the weeds if you want. But this is a decent-sized school district. And in this case, you're seeing historic data. Let me pull up another one here. You're seeing historic data here. And as you scroll through day, week, month, you can toggle that. You can see app launches. Here, you're seeing applications launched by the number of launches, the most popular, the most frequently used applications. And if I wanted to, I'd click on the launches, and that would reverse that count. So you could see which ones are the least used, which is really handy. The overview, by the way, folks, I failed to mention this. You can customize this analytics dashboard to whatever you see fit. Maybe there's something that's more important that you want to trace in the school district. And so you pull over whatever you want, and you can design your dashboard specifically to what the district needs are there. So moving down on the left side here are logins, login summaries. All this type of data is available to you. Logins outside of school hours. This was really a neat feature prior to COVID, right? And weekend logins. We know what they're doing when they're with us. What are they doing on the weekends, for instance? And obviously with remote learning and distance learning, many of these kids are away all the time. So we have to have a better finger on the pulse on what's going on. Recent logins. And that's pulling up. Forgive me, my internet here is a bit slow today. Browser logins, so all that type of, and this is a really popular and useful one, failed logins. If there were failed logins, they would show up here. And this is a great way to stay proactive. If there are failed logins, why? You can reach out to that individual person, whether it be a student or a teacher, and make sure that they have their login credentials. Schools, if you have if you have a district with multiple grade schools, for instance, this is a great way. And I'm making up a story here. Let's say I have a high, an on, and a below performing school, and I want to do a comparison. So I can compare, take a look at which applications are being used. This certainly is not scientific by any means. It's just meant to give you the data to kind of dip your toes in and start exploring in terms of which direction should I go to correct that issue of high versus low. So there you go. So applications and cost. So here, for instance, we have Infinite Campus. The district is paying $42,000 for 6,000 seats. Year to date, for whatever reason, this district has only used 1,295. And if this is a core if that was my core reading product, that would be a problem, right? Because they need to be using that. They could click into this and then find out specifically who is and who isn't using it. If it's a supplemental type of a product, and I'm not sure if Brain Pop would be a supplemental or not, but you get the idea here. This is a perfect example. Bridges Math, that's core. But let's say it was a supplemental type product. We're paying for 200 seats. It's a supplemental product. Only 73 people are using it. We're deep into the school year now. Next year, do we want to continue purchasing for 200 seats, or do we want to whittle that back to 100? So that's how districts are using this. And then they can whittle those subscriptions back and apply the savings to somewhere else that may be more effective or maybe in more need.
Lyle?
The biggest bang for your buck. Yes.
Yeah, hey, Lyle, this is LeiLani. So just, a question and maybe a opinion, sort of I think, when it comes, the question is basically, are you finding, that districts that are fairly new to you are seeing these sorts of numbers of not users, but they have plans because they're middle of rollout and trying to get everyone to use it?
Yeah, if I understand your question right, the analytics become more razor sharp the longer you've been using it. So you have to, because when you roll ClassLink out, you have to kind of ingrain that into the culture, right? There's a culture change. Kids probably before were maybe opening up a tab and then typing in Pearson and logging in that way. Well, the culture change is I'm going to that login page like this.
Yeah.
I'm logging in and then I'm accessing the applications from my Launchpad. Once that happens, and it usually happens fairly quick because it's so easy, the analytics continue to become more razor sharp and focused and accurate. And it can help you any number of ways. Where do we want to focus our professional development? Which subscriptions do we want to whittle back and save? And you can analyze that data a million and one different ways, obviously. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, it did. But I also, maybe Doug can unmute him. Melvin has a comment. My other opinion is basically so many districts per our survey joined the fray, right? And for equity reasons, they bought licenses for every kid. But they're seeing, like you're showing right now, a lot of non-use because they're still getting teachers' lesson plan built to use things and training, right? So from an equity perspective, they had to buy licenses for everyone because they have to prove that everyone has access, right? But they take a long time to get everything, everybody used to things, all those different apps.
Yep. Well, in that case, and I know we only have a half hour here, on the technical side, this is where the tools, those automation tools help. So these two tools take care of when a new teacher comes in. A new teacher comes into the district, they're entered into the HR database. This tool, OneSync, creates your AD, your Azure, or your Google account. A new teacher comes into the district and is entered into the HR. This tool takes care of creating the applications, the educational applications that teacher needs. So maybe I'm a history teacher and it takes care of my Pearson U.S. history, my Nat Geo U.S. history, and then things like that. So
Lyle, Melvin's on. Melvin, go ahead.
Melvin,
how you doing, Lyle?
Good. How are you?
Like what you're saying. And my concern is, would we be able to receive a copy of your presentation? I'm an individual where I like to look at things more closely.
Of course, yeah, Melvin, you bet. We have a shareable. I'll get your email. I trust I can get it from Doug.
Yeah.
And I will forward it to you. What district are you with?
ABSS out in North Carolina.
All right. I'll hit Doug up after this session, and I'll get your email from him, and we will certainly get you the shareable seat out there. We do have somebody based in out your way as well, so we're happy to reach out to you and discuss it in deeper conversation with you there. So, with that being said, Doug, Melvin, thank you. Doug, any other questions?
Yeah, I'm watching for other questions, but you were on a point here about how easy it is to put everybody in there. But the question really is, what are you seeing from the curve of increased use? Because you guys have onboarded so many new districts this year. There's a lot more, right? I mean, there's a lot of districts that still need ClassLink, but they go through sort of a maturity thing in using all their apps. So when they look at your dashboards, like, nobody's using this app, what kind of conversations do you have about that? Because, maybe it's not wise to just dump an app that not very many people were using, because it takes so long to get all the teachers used to using all this stuff.
Right. Yep. And again, that depends on who you're speaking with. And a lot of times that conversation may not even be between us and the district. That conversation is going on internally with the various teams or departments in the district, because if it's a core product and it's not being used, you're going to want to know who's not using it so you can address that. And so if I'm in curriculum, I'm looking at that. If I'm on the professional development team, I'm looking at what's being used and what isn't, maybe because we didn't deliver the professional development, the training. The people aren't even aware in some cases that we have that application to tap into, and that's why they're not logging into it, or that they need to be using that. And so let's get them that professional development. And then if I'm on the business side with the district, I'm looking at these things, these costs, and I'm going to hit up curriculum to see, well, look, listen, we're paying for almost 7,000 seats, only 139 of them are being used. What's going on? Why is that?
Yeah.
Is that normal? Is that the way you want it? Are you building up to something? Let's
Yeah.
figure out a plan to get that usage up.
Yeah. Hey, my good friend Nick Cusimano made a comment. Nick, I unmuted you if you want to make your comment, and then I'm going to move on to our next set of speakers.
Sure. We adopted ClassLink this summer, and then we are in the middle of adopting OneSync, which will save us tons of time and probably from hiring a person to manage our students and staff. Can't wait to do the staff part. That I'm actually going to have a meeting with our HR department next week to fix all the things that needed to be updated, because once we have that all together, when we add new people in, all our stuff will be consistent, and you just add the person in one spot, and then it pushes it to everywhere else.
Absolutely. It really helps you. First of all, thank you. Thank you for entrusting us with the district's business. But these type of tools help you if you don't have a process in place, which most schools do, but it's not completely refined. This helps you refine that process. Like
we have to put in 3 different places.
Exactly. Right. Or who's putting that in? Is it the school secretary? Is it the principal? Is it who's doing it? And so you can unify that across the board, get consistency, and then you're going to be able to deliver those applications and tools to your kids lightning fast. And just as important, if it from a privacy perspective, if let's say, for instance, a special education teacher leaves the district, you don't want those accounts. I'm not saying that the teacher would do anything, obviously, with those things, but you don't want a non-employee to have access to confidential district information. And so once that teacher is indicated in the HR database as resigned or not employed anymore, then these accounts get turned off.
Yeah. Excellent presentation. Thank you so much, Lyle.
Great to be here.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, Nick. Yeah, and we'll make sure that we get you Melvin's contact data, Lyle, so you can.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Lyle.